everybody, and welcome to another Mad November episode of Phil and the Mic. I, as always, am Darren Michael, and with me, the man who just spent the entire night last night crying about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame. Man, you got some big bags under your eyes. Mr. Phil Calise. Phil, man, I wish I was there to give you a big hug right now, man. I know how sorry that you are.
Sleepless nights. He walked into the office and he said to me, "It's been a fun ride, but I'm off to the bayou where I fit in about as well as you do around Guatemalan chili." I don't know. Like, think about Brian Kelly from
I don't know where you're
Brian
coming up with this stuff. Guatemalan
I don't know, man.
chili.
Brian Kelly is like a Boston Catholic, coached
Yeah.
in the Midwest, and at
Yeah.
61 is going to acclimate to the bayou. Okay, we shall see.
Now, tell me this first off, and I know that
I'm not bitter, by the way. I'm not bitter. I'm genuinely like, it's fine. Like, I'm fine as a Notre Dame fan that he's leaving.
But let me just ask you a question, okay? Honestly, and I know that there was some, you had seen that there was some talk previously, maybe even early in the season, about this happening. Are you surprised? Yes or no?
The timing, yes. So here's how I've kind of reconciled it. What I'm most taken aback by is that any successful coach would leave Notre Dame for another college program, right? Because, and by the way, I can back that up by saying in Notre Dame's history, it's never happened before.
Okay.
Notre Dame has either fired their coach or the coach retired. He's never went and taken immediately after Notre Dame. He's never went and left Notre Dame for another job, because not being like whatever, it's a top whatever job. So usually there's not a better one. Now, the landscape of college football has changed where the money is so grotesque. There's so much money being thrown around. And the SEC is laced with cash that they actually did offer him upwards of $3 to $4 million more per year to leave, plus unlimited resources. And what I mean by that is we know they're paying their players, right? Like, now you can legally do it, I guess, but there's unlimited resources in terms of, like, Brian Kelly wants a 5th facility there, they'll get it. If he wants like a 7th beach house or wherever, they'll get it. If there's any not underwater still in the state of Louisiana from their 17th hurricane in a row. So whatever. But I look at it this way. That's what bothered me, is that, like, he left Notre Dame to go. It's not him, I should say. It's that the head coach of Notre Dame left to go somewhere else.
Well, but wait, let me just interject for a second, though. Isn't it fair to say that Notre Dame is just not a big time job anymore? It's and let me just preface this by asking a question, and that is, do you think the fact that they're not in a league, do you think that really hurts them?
I would say no to both. So, and here's why. The conference thing I don't think is a big deal at all. I really don't. I think that's a media-made creation. They've been in existence forever, and I think with all the shuffling that's went around, the fact that they've stayed independent. So if you just go back not long ago, people said once they went to the 14 playoff, Notre Dame has to join a conference. What are they doing? They have to. They've been to 2 playoffs in the 7 years of the existence of the playoff format. And people thought, how could a team not in a conference? There was only 4 spots. Five major conferences, and Notre Dame's been to 2 and could still make a 3rd in the 8-year existence of the playoff. They've been in the top 6 or 7 and in the conversation 5 of the 7 years, 6 of the 7 years. So no, I don't think that means anything. I think it got down simply to this. This is Brian Kelly's reasoning. Yeah, money played a part, but I don't think money's a big deal in this case. 3 or 4 million more per year, a guy who's already made 60 or 70 million. I don't think that was the be all end all. I think it simply got to this. It is a very hard place to recruit at, Notre Dame meaning. There's a lot of hurdles. It's in the middle of Indiana, not the greatest place. People are dying to go live. There's no beach around. The weather's not great. The academics are hard. The Catholic part of the school, or the religious element, I don't think is a huge detractor, but I don't think it might rub some people that aren't interested. It certainly, I don't think, necessarily helps them. I don't think it hurts him or helps him, but I don't think it's an advantage. And I think Brian Kelly at 61 years old has said, the last thing I need to do is win a championship. Where of the two programs am I more likely to win one? So when you say Notre Dame's not an elite program, it is an elite program. But now you're talking about he has a short shelf life. He's 61 years old. He's only going to do this for another 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Where in the next 5 to 7 years does he has a better chance to win? Now, here's where the argument I think could be made. It may not be at LSU. They're coming off of 11-11 in the last 2 years. They have a very, very itchy trigger finger with firing coaches. They want a title in the next 3 years. Before Joe Biden is out of office, Brian Kelly better be holding up a championship or he'll be fired. Because also there's no affinity there.
You're also going under the assumption that Biden's going to make it another 3 years.
True. So what I would say, and this is the part that I'm a little bit surprised when Kelly decided to take it. He's going all in to win a championship. Do they get better recruits at LSU? Yes, they're high end, the tippy top of their they get more 5 stars, right? They're just in a better recruiting hotbed.
Yeah.
So, and they have no academic restrictions. So their best no, it's not. I mean, that's just true.
No, I know it's true. It's just funny.
There's kids Notre Dame can't even recruit.
It's funny to say.
That's LSU. Yeah. Well, but what I would say is he has 3 years to win a title. If he doesn't win a title in 3 years at LSU, not only will he be fired, he will have no legacy to go back to, meaning he's dead on Notre Dame's campus now. Like no one's ever done what he's done. So he didn't have to win a championship at Notre Dame. He's being put on a pretty high pedestal. Nobody says he's Holtz. Nobody says he's Rockne or Leahy, but he's up there in the conversation, and he was golden at Notre Dame. Like he's won 10 games 5 straight years. He's been to 2 playoffs in 5 years. He could have coached until he retired there.
Yeah, easily.
But now he can't even go back there. And his
easily.
legacy isn't the same there. So if he doesn't get his ring at LSU, this turns into a colossal mistake. If he gets it, the best thing is he gets a ring at LSU in a school that will kind of never remember him, because does anybody care about Les Miles? He won a ring at LSU and got fired in 2 years. Does anybody care about Ed Orgeron? I mean,
I do. I care about Ed.
Go get that jumbo. Get that jumbo blah.
Yeah. Ed.
Like nobody's going to care about either of those guys. They spent 3 years at LSU.
I do. He was so entertaining every time he was interviewed. I mean, who didn't want to hear him? Yeah, we played a hell of a game out there. It's like, Ed, what you got something in your throat? No, there's always talking. It's like give me a break.
But he goes into that long line of those guys. Even Nick Saban won a title at LSU and then used it to catapult to Alabama.
Well,
so
he does.
He kind of becomes just another name at LSU without the legacy of Notre Dame now to be revered at.
But you know what, though? Something is really questionable, because just in the last couple of days, we've had 3 coaches that have changed. You had Lincoln Riley go from Oklahoma to USC, which I know that you want. I know you've got some serious thoughts about that. But then you also have somebody else called Billy Napier, who went from Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns, to University of Florida, who likes to make decisions on coaches like that as soon as possible. But I don't really understand the timing. Like, we haven't even played the conference championship games. The bowl games haven't been played yet.
Well, you know, though, that this is what happens every year. When coaches leave, they leave. They leave. They leave in the midst of a shambles.
The timing to me is
no, but that was
odd.
the third. But the third point I didn't get to with Kelly, and it goes along the lines where Lincoln Riley did it better, in my opinion. Lincoln Riley played Oklahoma State for a Big 12 berth, which then could have been a playoff berth, right? He had to win 2 games in a row. He didn't win it. The next day, he took the USC job. But he was out. Like, he was out of playoff contention. He wasn't even going to compete for a Big 12 title. Brian Kelly.
It was a bowl game, though.
A bowl game, but they all leave before bowl games. Listen, I have no problem with that. Half these kids sit out their bowl games now. So I don't care about that.
I know.
If you're not playing for the playoff, it's fine. It is what it is. But Brian Kelly actually still has a chance to make the playoff with Notre Dame.
That's true.
I mean, but they just need a couple. They just need a couple things to happen, and they'd make the playoff. One of those things is Georgia beating Alabama, which they're favored to do.
Yeah.
If that happens, they only need one other thing out of Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and Michigan losing. the idea that that's like a far-fetched thing, it's not that far-fetched.
It's not out of the realm. It's not out
No,
of the
but
realm.
he left where he could have been to a third playoff in 5 years. The irony is,
Yeah.
instead of waiting a week, because in a week he'd know if they made the playoff or not. Instead of waiting a week, here's the irony. He's leaving to go to LSU where he thinks he has a better chance to win, when he might be leaving a school that's going to make the Final Four this year.
It's interesting, right? It's
That's
definitely
crazy.
interesting. Yeah,
That's
it
crazy.
is. It is. But you know what else let's move away from the Notre Dame topic. What really bothers me is the Lincoln Riley situation. You know, we've talked about it before. I hate this new transfer rule about how guys are just free agents and they can just go wherever the hell they want. And I know that Lincoln Riley, like a whole bunch of his players, a whole bunch of recruits have said that they're not coming to Oklahoma, which is normal when a coach leaves. But if these guys are all going to USC, I personally think that's pretty crappy.
They are. So, I mean, not all, but whoever he wants to take.
You know what
what
I'm saying? You know, I mean,
with the transfer portal.
I mean, it's like not only are you leaving the team, but you're taking guys with you. I mean,
you're hurting the team. You're hurting
that
the
shouldn't
team
be allowed. I have a real problem with that. I really
that
do.
will not happen with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. There's no Notre Dame player going, I'm going to LSU with you. That's not going to happen.
That's because they go to Notre Dame to go to Notre Dame.
True,
and that's the difference. And that might very well be the only school in college football where players actually go there to go there.
Yeah, maybe Stanford. That's it.
Stanford.
Well, I mean, I think people go to Stanford to go to Stanford is what I'm saying, not the coach of Stanford is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you're going to Stanford, you're going to Northwestern, you're going to Harvard. You're not going to schools like that because you're because you're a top prospect. You're going there because the education is the most important thing, and you say you got a Stanford education.
True, that's what I meant.
You know,
yeah. But unlike Kelly, I think Lincoln Riley's move makes a lot of sense. He's 38.
Yeah.
He went to a USC will and has in our lifetimes absolutely dominated college football in periods of time. And it's a hotbed for recruiting. He doesn't have to leave the state to put a top 5 program together. They have more money than anything.
Yeah, but what's been going on? I mean, they haven't been relevant in
but they've messed up at the head coaching position.
But they've been terrible.
But they've gotten it wrong at the head coach a lot.
Ever since Pete Carroll left, I mean that school's done nothing.
Right, but it is fertile ground for a coach that believes in himself. The recruiting is off the charts. The school has got so much money. It's LA weather. It's got 30 selling points. So I could see him saying, I'd rather go out there and dominate recruiting on the West Coast and make that team the Pac-12 champ every year and make the playoff than to deal with Oklahoma going into the SEC to fight 16 other teams to try to make the playoff.
You know, I'm still looking at it like this, you know, like on one hand, I'm like Oklahoma, LA, Oklahoma, LA. I mean, it's a tough call if you ask me. I mean, there's so much good stuff going on in Oklahoma. Like,
don't alienate our Oklahoma podcast audience.
Yeah, I can't figure out anything good that's going on in Oklahoma. So if there's any listeners out there from Oklahoma, email me at
just put it in the comments. Tell us.
Put in the comment. Yeah, let us know. Let us know what is going on in Oklahoma, because no idea. Absolutely.
By the way, I would like to start seeing some comments in the. Let's get some comments going, people. Just respond to my stupidity. If you don't think I make sense, tell me how my beard looks. Give me a comment. Let me know.
Your beard looks great.
Thank
your
you.
head looks stupid. You look stupid, but your beard looks. I mean, your beard's incredible.
Well, I can only control the beard, so I'll take that as a compliment.
I'm so jealous, especially since you just shaved Saturday morning. I mean, that's
this
impressive.
Is 6 weeks now. This is 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, this is about 3 years. Yeah.
All right, Abe Lincoln. Let's move to the next topic.
I just shaved it. Look, there's some mustache here, man.
Yeah, your mom would be proud.
My mom's watching this, and she's probably saying that Phil Calise is so mean to my boy.
Probably.
So let's stick with the college football theme here, because I think we got a lot going on. Now, last week was really interesting. We keep saying it every week. We keep saying the same thing. Somehow the playoff just works itself out, and it's unbelievable how this keeps happening. You know, like you called it, man. Congratulations. Michigan 42-27 over Ohio State. I did not see that coming. Ohio State, see ya. You're gone.
Are they though? Maybe we should leave Ohio State in the top 4. They've lost some good fun games. Come on.
they've got 2 losses. They've got
No,
2. I think they're
you
out.
know I'm being kidding. I'm kidding.
But being that I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama and Ohio State are the 2. Well, Ohio State didn't even make their conference championship, so they're gone. They're gone.
What I think they should do, though, is they should name the 4 playoff teams after Georgia beats Alabama, then put Alabama and Ohio State in a specialized 2-loss teams that really are the best 2 teams in the country, and whoever wins in that game still gets the trophy. Because we know America, they really are the 2 best teams, no matter how many times they lose.
Who was that tweeted that the other day? They were saying that that Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 of the best teams in the country, and they deserve to be in the playoffs.
No matter what they do.
It was some like
no,
big
Todd
guy.
McShay still had Ohio State 4th and Alabama 3rd in his rankings.
Because he feels like they're the dude. It's not if you feel they're better. Do they deserve it or do they not deserve it? And you can't say they deserve it because they're Alabama and Ohio State. That's ridiculous.
And by the way, with Alabama, if people were being fair right now, right, and I reserve judgment if they beat Georgia, they're in anyway, so it doesn't matter. Same thing I said about Ohio State. If people were ranking it fairly right now, Alabama would be 5th right now.
Yeah.
They would not be in the top 4. They don't have a lot of good wins, and they've been in a lot of close, ugly games, but they're Alabama, so they just get,
Well, let's think about this. Okay, so Michigan has with that win, I'm sure they're going to take over the number 2 spot in the ranking. So it'll be UGA, of course, who's just been dominating everybody. Michigan 2nd. Then it's going to get a little bit dicey. We were out to dinner during the Alabama Auburn game, and with like 5 minutes to go, it was 10-0 at Auburn, and we watched it, and everybody in the place was cheering for Auburn, and my daughter said she couldn't understand. She's like, why is everybody cheering for Auburn? We're not that far away from Alabama. And I said, yeah, but we're an hour away from Georgia. Everybody here's Georgia fans, and they all hate Alabama because Alabama is so freaking good every year. That's why everybody's cheering for Auburn. And so we watched this thing, and Alabama won 24-22 in 4 overtimes, which don't even get me started about the stupidness of the overtimes. Oh, it's overtime number 3. All you do is just 2 plays. Each of you goes for a 2-point conversion. The dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But that was an exciting game. And there's no way that Alabama should have won that game by 2. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And the committee who loves Alabama is going to see that. So right now they only have 1 loss. And now it comes down to how they play in the SEC tournament. But let's move to that in a second. You've also got Oklahoma State, number 7, that beat number 10 Oklahoma 37-33. Now they play Baylor, who's I think now the new rankings came out, but not the regular rankings. And I want to say that Baylor now is number 9. Oklahoma State is number 5. So they're playing against each other. I personally think that if Oklahoma State can beat Baylor, they have a legitimate shot. I think they control their own destiny more than anybody else. Cincinnati plays number 16 Houston. I don't think they've really played a good team all year. So this is going to be a great matchup for them. Michigan against
You're
number
not
15.
Counting their win over Notre Dame?
No, I'm not counting that. Michigan over number 15 Iowa. And then, of course, you've got UGA over Bama. So it should be interesting. The one thing that I want to point out before I let you talk about that for a second is that Alabama, I found this to be really interesting. They just had a 93 game streak broken. Do you know what that 93 game streak was?
93 game streak broken. Alabama did
with this upcoming game. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
They have been favored for 93 straight games.
That makes sense. Okay. That's crazy.
That's absurd. That's absurd. And now they're Georgia's favorite. I think it's 6.5. So tell me, honestly, how is this playoff gonna end up? What are we gonna see at the end of this thing? This is a huge weekend. It's so exciting. What's gonna come out of this thing? What's your prediction there?
So I agree with you that Oklahoma State controls their own fate to be. So the teams that control their own fate, Alabama controls their own fate. If they beat Georgia, they're in. And Georgia's, I think Georgia's in no matter what happens that day.
No doubt. No doubt.
It'll just be that they'll drop to 3 or 4, but they'll be in. So Alabama does control their own fate. Michigan controls their own fate. Georgia's going to be in no matter what. And I think the 4th team that controls their own fate is Oklahoma State, meaning nobody's talked about this, but there is a path where Cincinnati gets left out at 13-0. A lot would have to go wrong for them to have that happen, but there is a path for that to happen.
Yeah, it is true.
If Alabama beats Georgia, that would really be the first big domino to fall. I'm sorry, at 12 o'clock, Oklahoma State plays Baylor. If Oklahoma State beats Baylor, then Cincinnati needs Georgia to beat Alabama.
Right.
If not, they'll be sitting there at 8 o'clock praying Iowa beats Michigan, which is a big prayer, you have to say. That's not likely. Iowa's just not very good. If you look at Iowa, they lost by 40 points combined in 2 weeks to Wisconsin and Purdue.
Yep.
And Iowa doesn't even have a good win on their schedule.
That's true.
They're not very good.
That's true. No,
Wisconsin would probably have been the better team to get in, and then they spit the bit and lost to Minnesota. So
seriously,
Iowa's not a very good Big Ten West representative this year. So here's my predictions, though. It's been a chaotic situation. I don't think it stands to reason it's going to stay chaotic. So in my opinion, I think Baylor beats Oklahoma State and sends the Big 12 packing. And that's more just about the fact that I think the Big 12, nobody's that good. Like they're just not. Oklahoma is a shell of themselves.
That's true.
Went to Oklahoma State last week, turned it over 3 or 4 times, and had a chance to win at the very end.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State's just not that good.
It's true. It's true.
I think at 4 o'clock, Georgia exercises some SEC demons, and they beat Alabama. But I think Alabama, like Alabama is, will keep it close and probably put multiple scares into Georgia just because they're Alabama. But I think Georgia's just going to win this time finally.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of that, I think Michigan will clobber Iowa.
Yeah, I see that too. Yeah.
And I actually think Cincinnati's going to win. And then I think it comes down to this. If my predictions hold up, Georgia's clearly number 1.
Yep.
Michigan's clearly number 2.
Yep.
And Cincinnati's clearly number 3 if what I just said happens.
Yep.
Alabama cannot get in with 2 losses on a year where they weren't impressive, particularly the last 6 weeks. Ohio State can't get in. They didn't even make the Big Ten conference title.
That's right.
So then it becomes a coachless Notre Dame. Right? Or nobody says this, but if you're going to make an argument for a 2-loss team, the only argument that you really can make would be to give it to Baylor. If I'm right and Baylor beats Oklahoma State.
If they do beat them. Yeah. But
like there are 2, because they're the only 2-loss champ. They actually would be the champ.
That's a jump.
Conference.
That's a big jump.
Well,
but yeah,
it's not that
possible.
big of a jump.
It's possible.
They're going to be like 7 or 8. You have to make them go to 4.
Mm.
No, I think under my scenario, Notre Dame would be coachless and in the Final Four. Maybe they'd call Kelly back and say, "Hey, you want to win a title? Come back here. We're playing in a playoff."
I mean, they could. They definitely
well, I
could.
think Notre Dame's in if that's the case. They're not going to get left out if all those teams have 2 losses.
Okay, so then what's your prediction for the 4th spot?
Yeah, it'll be Notre Dame. They'll be the 4th
You think
spot.
it's going to be Notre Dame?
Well, yeah. If my predictions were, I only am predicting one upset. So like people keep acting like that's chaos.
Yeah.
Georgia's supposed to beat Alabama.
Easily. Yeah.
The only upset I'm predicting is Baylor beating Oklahoma State, and I think the spread is 5 on the game. So it's not a big spread.
Right.
So I'm predicting one upset. If one upset happens and Georgia takes care of business, Notre Dame will be 4.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to be. I don't know if people are going to be annoyed. I actually think because of the way Kelly left, there's going to be people that normally don't like Notre Dame that are like, actually, I'd like them to get in without a coach. It'd be funny.
Well, you know what? But here's let me just throw another wrinkle into things here. What if Cincinnati loses to Houston? They're only going to have 1 loss, but they're going to drop. They're not going to make the Final Four with that. So
if Georgia, so you have Oklahoma State winning in that scenario though?
Let's say Baylor wins and let's say Houston wins.
Oh, so you gave even more chaos than I
did.
So
I'm saying, yeah, right. Because listen, and those are both. I think that they're probably more unlikely that they both lose, but you never know what's going to happen.
What you just played out is a super fun scenario. So
that is a fun scenario.
Well, you know what's a more fun scenario? All right, ready? So what you just said means Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2, Notre Dame's 3.
Notre Dame would move up to 3,
and then 4 would be Baylor then. Because
four would have to be Baylor, right?
It would have, but here's a different scenario that's crazy. Just replace Baylor replace Baylor, give Oklahoma State the win, but give Houston beating Cincinnati. That's chaos. Georgia won.
Yeah.
Michigan 2. I'm sorry. Yeah, Michigan 2. Notre Dame 3. Now who's 4? There's all 2-loss teams, none of which won their conference title.
Let me ask you this though.
That's
Listen,
chaos.
there's a million scenarios, but don't you think it hurts Notre Dame that they're not playing this week?
It hurts them in a comparison against one-loss Oklahoma State.
Because it's people have a short-term memory.
No, it hurts them in a comparison against Oklahoma State, but here's why it doesn't hurt them in any other scenario. They're not getting in over one-loss Alabama.
No, they're not getting. No, that's exactly right.
None of those
that's
teams.
Exactly right.
So it's only hurting them. It's not hurting them against Cincinnati, because if Cincinnati loses, they're going to drop out of the top 4. They're not putting a non-Power 5 conference non-champion in the playoff.
That's true.
And so it hurts them against one team. It hurts them head-to-head against Oklahoma State. They will lose the tiebreaker because they didn't play in a conference title. That's the team it hurts them against. Against anybody else, it was baked into the equation. It can help them if Michigan loses. It can help them if Cincinnati loses. It can help them if Oklahoma State loses and Alabama loses. So it actually helps them not playing in a conference title more than it hurts them this year.
This is going to be one of the more exciting last weekends of college football that we've seen in a while.
The greatest
there's a lot of
thing
moving parts here.
The greatest thing tweeted out, and we'll end it on this with college football. College football is built for chaos.
Yep.
The coaches, the big name schools opening is an unusual thing. All of them big, like USC, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida, right? All in the same year, all this unknown or unexpected chaos. The greatest tweet that went out by a famous, I forget who it was, but like a popular beat writer or somebody said, so it's very possible that Notre Dame and Cincinnati make the playoff, and the head coach of Notre Dame is Luke Fickell, the Cincinnati coach.
That's true.
Because he's one of the top 3 guys for the job, bro.
I heard that too. Now that'd be really funny.
That would finish the bananas of the season.
That would be.
Hey, Luke, hurry up to South Bend. You got a playoff game to play. Wait, I am going to be in the playoff. No, for us. Come on.
Like who's he rooting for there? It's oh my God, that's something to think about, which is great. That's something to think about. So, my man, congratulations. Fill up your bank account is back, baby. He's back, baby. 3-1 last week, 1-0 on the lock. The locks are 9-4, crushing it on the locks. Even regular season, man, this has got to put you top among the experts. 26-18-1. Dude, you're crushing it. You're crushing
26-18-1 is good against the spread. I've been looking around and poking around at people
strong.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I mean, you against the spread, you actually rarely see guys that are over 500. And it's funny. I was looking at one site last weekend when I was thinking about picks, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, these are all my picks, whatever." And then it said last week it was like 5-11, and I'm like, wow, I'm really gonna look at your pick. And then it was like on the season I'm 37-39, and I'm like, wow, you're really, really good. Wow.
Maybe we should try to throw out invites and get some of these experts on so I can just make fun of them when they come on the
podcast. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, but you still have some time to think about your picks, man. But I just want you to know, I looked at some of the spreads. Ouch. There are some, I think this is going to be a tough week. I got to be honest with you. And it's only Tuesday, so these things can change. So, without any announcements, you're really putting a lot of pressure on yourself. But the good news is you probably got some good spreads, being that it's still early in the week.
Could work out good or could work out bad, depending on what Sunday brings. You're just a COVID outbreak away from a game going from a 2-point spread to a 13-point spread in the wrong direction.
That's true.
You got to take it a little bit with a grain of salt. I would advise all of our betting audience, anybody that actually bets, that whatever I tell you on a Tuesday, at least make sure it holds up injury-wise by Sunday at kickoff. Like, don't make these bets Tuesday. Make them Sunday morning when you wake up. Double check, triple check. Make sure Dak doesn't have the COVID. Make sure somebody else didn't break out with the COVID. Just
man, we're one of these days we're gonna have to start with some NFL previews. We'll get up on Sunday morning. I think we could be a direct competitor with NFL Countdown. What do you think?
Certainly, I think we can do it.
You know,
I think we're better looking than they are.
I mean, I'll wear one of Michael Irvin's crazy suits. That's fine because I can pull those
Well, I
off.
think we're dressed more comfortably than they are, at least.
Oh yeah, man, I feel good right now. I like this sweatshirt.
I don't think I
Nice
ever
and
want to
comfy.
talk football in a suit. That would just take my vibe away for football.
It's weird, right? Right.
I don't want to be all stuffy in a suit.
No. What you need is you need the sweater. You need the sweatshirt that has the arms cut off. That's what you need. You
Bill
know,
Belichick.
because you know you only make $10 million a year. I mean, God forbid you afford a sweatshirt that actually you don't have to cut the arms off. But I wonder if he does that with like his dress shirts too.
When he got married, that's how he walked down. That's how he was standing there.
I think he got married in a sweatshirt. He got married in one of those sweatshirt tuxedos, right? I think that's what he did.
Instead of saying Patriots, the only difference was it said groom on it.
I like that. All right, man. You ready for our 5 questions of the week? I got some good ones here for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question number 1, Carolina Panthers. We know that they are just not a good team. I mean, any team that would think that Sam Darnold could be their starting quarterback of the future obviously has a problem. So let's talk about what's recently happened. Christian McCaffrey out for the season again. Again, I don't understand why he can't stay healthy. My guess is that it's overuse. But I want you to address that. But also Cam Newton, you know, he came back, they signed him. He gave them this burst of energy. And then last game he came in and he was again relieved after going 5 for 21 passing by the great power forward, PJ Walker, who is dynamite. What, I mean, are they really that dysfunctional there? What the hell's going on?
I think it pumps the brakes on the whole Cam Newton and he's back screaming into the camera off his first rushing touchdown because I'm back really means 5 for 20 with 2 picks and an abysmal performance, which is why he was basically run out of the league and why Carolina didn't want him 3 years ago or 2 years ago anymore.
That's exactly
He's a
right.
shell of his former self. You know, when it gets back to Christian McCaffrey, it's why the new school idea is you don't overreach on high running back draft picks and you don't pay them a boatload. Yeah. Because currently, as we sit here, Derrick Henry out for the year, Christian McCaffrey out for the year, Saquon Barkley might as well be out for the year. He barely plays.
Out for every year.
These are 3 of the most freakish, athletically talented running backs, and they're never there. Add Dalvin Cook, who misses a lot of weeks into the equation. Nick Chubb has missed games this year. Name your favorite RB, boys and girls. They just don't give you 16 games. And so when it comes time to draft them in the top 10 picks or spending $100 million to resign them, it's why you see GMs get cold feet because they don't hold up. It's a brutal contact position. You get hit 25 times a week and the body doesn't hold up unless you're Adrian Peterson.
And even then, they signed him and they cut him.
Well, but he's like 70 now, so yeah.
He is 70, but I thought he was still serviceable. But you know, the thing with McCaffrey that I always found interesting. I mean, he is a really talented guy. He is really, really good. But I mean, they're overusing him. I mean, he's running for 1,000 yards. He's catching 1,000 yards worth of passes, 110 receptions. I mean, how can you stay healthy when you're being used like that? I mean, you know, you're basically a glutton for punishment. And like you said, I mean, that's a position that gets tackled more than anybody else. You know, if you're getting 300 touches in a season, I mean, you're basically getting tackled 300 times for the most part. Granted, you run out of bounds sometimes, but
not much.
It's a lot. It's a lot on the body. It's a lot on the body. So the Panthers just suck. Okay. Number two, speaking of suck, Seahawks. They lost another tough game last night. They went for the 2-point conversion, didn't get it going on. They're now 3-8, much to they're actually, you get the same record as the Jets now, I believe, which is terrible. You know, they have a tough remaining schedule. They've had some tough games. If you look at their losses, right, they've lost to Tennessee, Minnesota, the Rams, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, and Arizona. You know, and in their last 3 games, they've scored 28 points. They've been outscored 57-28. You know, Lockett and Metcalf. I mean, these are 2 stud wide receivers on the season, 97 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 11 touchdowns. You know, those are good numbers for 2 guys, but I would expect more out of those 2 guys. And even Russell Wilson, he's got a 102.5 QBR, but he only has 12 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions. So My question is this, because I mean, you're talking about a guy that had 40 touchdown passes last year. Is Russell Wilson to blame? And has he just lost it? Has he lost a step in his game now?
He definitely, I mean, I know he had the finger surgery and people speculated he might have come back too soon. He's been uneven at best since he's been
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
They got this monster talent in Metcalf. He had one catch last night. I don't know how he could ever play in a football game with one catch. Something's not right there.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be 3-8.
No, they shouldn't.
When you have a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the NFL, a sport dominated by that position, very rare to see a team be this bad with that good of a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the defense, in fairness, and I've been all over Jamal Adams and made jokes about it, the defense has actually not been the reason they haven't won the last 2 or 3 weeks.
No.
If you look at the scores, I mean, Washington was held to a very respectable total.
Yeah.
The week before, if you pull it up, I think they were in a close, low-scoring game. They're not scoring Seattle. So it's good for the Jets.
Listen,
I mean,
28 points in 3 weeks is terrible. I mean, they're not even averaging 10 yards. I mean, 10 points a game since Russell Wilson
they're not giving themselves a real chance to win these games. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
I think it might be time for Peter Carroll to say bye-bye. I think his time in Seattle might have run out. Yeah. And it's a cautionary tale for all organizations that despite having the quarterback, if you just neglect the offensive line for years, you end up paying for it.
Yeah,
and if you look at Seattle, they've let people go to other teams. They've not spent draft picks on it. I mean, of course, that's because they sell them all to the Jets for Jamal Adams, but they don't draft offensive linemen. And they've now gotten Russell Wilson more beat up than ever.
Yeah.
He's not as mobile as he used to be. And they're just not the same team. And I will make one prediction. Russell Wilson will be a New York Giant or a Pittsburgh Steeler next year.
That's a bold prediction, man. That's
one of those two places.
I can't. Listen, why would you hold on to a stud quarterback if your team is that bad?
Whoever ponies up the most, they're going to, because they need to rebuild the team, and Russell Wilson's going to get 2 or 3 first-round picks back.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So Pittsburgh or the Giants, and the Giants are actually equipped to do it. They have 2 first-round picks next year.
They do.
One of those teams is going to do it. I would have thrown the Eagles in the mix after Jalen Hurts' performance, and I might still do that too, by the way. It might be the Eagles as well.
Interesting. Question number 3. LA Rams. I think that we thought that they were going to be much better. And I think they started off the season really, really great, but they've lost their last 3 in a row to Tennessee, San Francisco, and Green Bay. They've played good teams. They've got 6 games left, and they play at Arizona, they play at Minnesota, they play at Baltimore, and they play San Francisco. And they got a tough remaining schedule. They brought on Von Miller, who has done pretty much nothing, although I think he's pretty much washed up anyway. What do you see happening with the Rams? I mean, are they playing themselves out of the playoffs here? I mean, they're not playing good ball. They've got some really tough games coming. I mean, this is a team that I think everybody was high on up until 4 weeks ago when they started this losing streak.
It's I think there's a reason most teams end up, even the good teams are 11-6. I mean, I'm adding the extra game now, right? So there's 11-6, 12-5. It's not easy to win in the NFL. No, I think when it's all said and done, they'll be an 11-6 type of team. I think they hit their rough patch. It might turn out to be good because you don't want to peak too early. And if they can get it back on track, they can finish up strong and hit the playoffs hot. But I don't think there's any real crime going to Lambeau and losing. I didn't think they would win. It was one of my picks. I had Green Bay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a crime. They've played tough teams of late. I think the loss that they look back on, the Tennessee went there on Monday night and beat them when they had no Derrick Henry. That was probably one they'd like to have back. But Tennessee's kind of held their own without Henry. I think the Rams at the end of the day, well, first of all, there's 7 teams making the playoffs now in each conference.
That's true.
There's no shot the Rams aren't making the playoffs, but you don't want to be a wild card team on the road throughout the playoffs. So
that's
I think they're
true.
falling in dangerous shape of that being the case. Arizona looks like they're clearly a little notch above right now.
Yeah, and Arizona had a bye week, so they're going to be back and they're getting much more healthy. So I would expect them to finish off the season probably pretty strong. Question number 4. my Super Bowl pick, the Bucs.
Hmm.
Yes, they've got a good record, right? What are they? 9-3, 8-3, something
8-3.
like that.
Yep.
8-3. I hold my breath every time they play, and you literally don't know what you're going to get. They're 2-2 in their last 4. Their last 7 games, right? I mean, they've had a joke of a schedule, if you ask me. They've beaten Miami, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York Giants, and then they just eked out a victory over the Colts. Their 2 losses have been at New Orleans and at Washington, which makes no sense to me. But Tom Brady, 6 interceptions in his last 4 games, and he hasn't had a QB rating over 90 in his last 3. Is Tom Brady starting to show his age? He started off the season so strong. And I'm not saying that he's playing bad, but he's not playing great.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's only up against himself in terms of comparisons. He's got 30 touchdowns and 9 picks. It's hard to be that down on that. He's just had a little rough patch. He's still completing 68% of his passes.
But what does it say about him that I mean, I think he started off the season just so hot.
The standard is silly. Like he's not going to be, he's not at a point in his career where he's going to have like historically great seasons in terms of like setting records or what have you. But he's on pace to finish 40 touchdowns and 15 picks. If it goes really bad and he throws another 6 picks,
5,000 yards. Yeah.
I mean, hard to knock any of that. I just don't think the Bucs look like a great team. But I always like to say, it's not a knock on the Bucs. They got very hot at the end of last year.
Yeah.
At this same point last year, people weren't even sure they were going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
So their body of work over the last 2 years has been a solid to very good NFL team who got really hot last year in the playoffs and won it. It's why I didn't make them the favorite to win it this year. I don't think they're as good as the Packers. I think the Rams could still figure it out and be dangerous. I think the Cardinals with Murray, if he gets healthy, are dangerous. The Cowboys are dangerous if they get healthy. I just think the Bucs are in a hodgepodge of a bunch of the good teams. I don't think they're a separate. They're not way better than anybody in the NFC.
Yeah.
So I just think they're going to be right there in the mix. They'll be a playoff team. They'll win the division because the division stinks.
Yeah.
And they'll be fine, but they're going to be in a bunch of close playoff games. They're not blowing anybody away. They're kind of right there. And I don't make them the favorite to get out of the NFC. If the playoffs go through Lambeau, I'm sticking by. Aaron Rodgers looks great. I think he'll be fine. I think they're the team to beat right now. That's where I'm at.
Fair enough. Question number 5. The Washington football team, aka don't call us the Redskins, they're 5-6 now after another win. They're 2 games behind Dallas for the division. Dallas has not been playing as well as we thought they would. Their next 6 games at Las Vegas versus Dallas, at Philadelphia, at Dallas, home versus Philadelphia, and at the New York Giants. They don't have exactly a really, really difficult schedule. Question is this: do you think they can pull out the division or the wild card, especially since they're actually tied for the 7th spot right now with some great teams, Minnesota, Atlanta, and New Orleans. So are we looking at the Redskins as a playoff team this year?
Yeah, I mean, they're right. Listen, other than with the NFL going to this new format and the 17-game season, there'll be 5 or 6 have-nots that have no chance to make the playoffs. And then after that, everybody has a chance to sneak in as the 7th. That's what the NFL wanted. They wanted the last 2 weeks of the season to be this, scrum to the 7th seed, right? Where everybody has to watch their favorite team because they might make the playoff, even if they're, 7-10 or 8-9. I think Washington's a decent team. I hesitate to anoint the Cowboys the division winners only because they've played some screwy games. So it's not really about Washington. It's just if Dallas wins 11 or 12 games, they're going to win the division. But who is Dallas? They lost to the Broncos at home, and then on Thanksgiving lost to a decent at best Raider team at home. I don't know what the Cowboys are. Every time I think they're ready to be one of the best teams, they lose strange games.
True.
So
it's true.
I don't know what Washington, but I know what Washington is. Washington's an 8, maybe a 9-win team.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough to win the division.
No, but it'll be good enough to get in the playoffs, so it seems.
It might. It really might.
Things are going. So, who are we giving the game ball to this week? I got 3 guys for you. I'm going to start off with wide receiver out of Alabama, Jalen Waddle. 9 receptions for 137 yards and 1 touchdown in a 33-10 victory over the Panthers. And I'm going to tell you something, man. He's getting into the conversation. He's playing some good ball. I think he's got 67 receptions right now, something like that. I mean, you're looking at a guy that might have 100 catches this year. Quarterback, I got to go with Mac Jones, 23 of 32, 310 yards, his first 300-yard passing game, 2 touchdowns, 0 interception, 123.2 quarterback rating in a 36-13 thrumping of the Tennessee Titans. That's a good word, thrumping. I don't even know if that is a word. He's playing some great ball. Running back, Leonard Fournette, 17 rushes for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, yeah, and let's also throw 7 receptions and a touchdown in there. So he actually scored 4 touchdowns last week in the Buccaneers' high-scoring affair with the Colts, 38-31. Who gets your game ball there, Mr. Phil?
I'm going to go with option D. You didn't name it, and I'm going to give it to Bill Belichick. I mean, the guy is in first place.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Mac Jones, but Belichick as a somebody who walks up there to the podium to receive it with him.
Well, congratulations to Mac Jones for getting Phil's game ball of the week. That is some good stuff. Now, as you know, my favorite part of the show, I can see it in your eyes. You're looking intently right now. It almost looks like you're very concerned with the picks that you're about to make. Like I can see a bit of disappointment in your eyes right now as I'm looking, and I think your beard you're starting to get some more white and gray hairs coming in because you're so nervous about these picks.
You know, I got 4 games for you. 26-18-1, 9-4 in locks. Stone cold, not even phased by the difficulty of this week. I'm gonna power right through it.
Do it, man. Do it.
So I'm gonna pick a Thursday game. I usually don't do that just because we usually don't do this till Thursday.
I know.
Or much later in the week, so it's not on the table normally. And I'm not sure why I've convinced myself I like this game because they've been erratic, but I'm gonna take the Cowboys laying 4.5 at New Orleans. After the last terrible performance the Cowboys had against the Broncos, they came back big time and blew out the Falcons. I'm hoping that after a disappointing loss to the Raiders, they come back motivated. They know they got to start playing well again. I think Amari Cooper's back. He's been on the COVID list for 2 weeks. The interesting thing about this Thursday matchup is both teams played last Thursday. So there's no short week. They're both in the same boat. So I don't put a lot of stock in the travel because they've been off the whole week themselves. So I'm going to take the Cowboys, lay the 4.5. Also, the Saints are bringing in Mr. Taysom Hill now to be the starting quarterback.
Oh, scary.
Taysom Hill, for those of you at home, he's a fullback who kind of moonlights as a tight end and on rare occasions plays quarterback. And if that beats the Cowboys this week, I will be surprised. I think that will surprise me. So we'll take the boys. Next game. I'm going to do the thing I did when I said I'm going to pick this team one more time, and if they don't come through for me, they're dead to me. This team qualifies for that. They have given me at least 2 losses in the last 4 weeks. They've also given me 2 wins. So I've been up and down, but I've picked them a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going back to them one more time. I'm going to one of the most underrated rivalries in all of NFL. A great rivalry. But it doesn't, I don't think, get the national attention it deserves. And that rivalry is the Ravens and Steelers. It's a great rivalry. And it's a rivalry littered in 3-point games.
Yeah,
it's like these two teams could play each other in a parking lot, at entering the Lincoln Tunnel, wherever. And they're going to play to like a 14-13, 17-14 game. So I'm going to take the desperate with a capital D, Steelers at home, getting 3.5 points because they're desperate. I'm also taking the Steelers because Lamar Jackson throws a lot of interceptions. Like an insane amount of interceptions for a good player. Like 4 last week against the Browns, and almost cost his team a game in which Baker Mayfield couldn't move the ball at all.
That's right.
So Lamar Jackson worries me. He's either had COVID or some other flu all year. I think he's down to 137 pounds. And I think if TJ Watt hits him once, he might break his whole sternum. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers plus 3.5. Plus 4. I'm sorry. Steelers plus 4.
Oh, it's plus 4 now. Okay.
I'm sorry, plus 4. So I got Cowboys minus 4.5, Steelers plus 4. Now, before I give you my lock, I'm gonna have to go to Monday Night Football. I don't always go Monday night, but I'm going Monday night.
Good game.
Great matchup. The insanely hot New England Patriots, who are 5-0 on the road. Woo!
Crazy.
Against your Super Bowl champs, right? Or your AFC champs.
Oh, Buffalo? My AFC champs.
AFC champs. Josh Allen has been erratic. He hasn't been the player consistently we'd expected him to be this year. Buffalo is in this weird spot where they're the clear better team, but they're not. Like, it's weird. Like, the Patriots are trying to regain their dominance in the division.
Yep.
They travel to Orchard Park. You figure at 8:20 kickoff on a Monday night, it's something between negative 43 and negative 24 degrees. And I think...
And 3 feet of snow too, right?
And I think Buffalo settles everybody back down this week. I think Buffalo says, it is our division. We haven't necessarily played like it, but it's time. We put our foot in the ground. We put our flag in the ground, and we say bye-bye to the Pats, who have done an incredible job, but mostly beating up on the dregs of the league. They haven't played a lot of the better teams, and when they have, they've lost.
Yep.
I'm going to stick to the idea that in Buffalo, having to lay 3, I'm going to take Buffalo.
Okay.
So then we go to my lock. I do think there's one game that really stands out as like a no-brainer. And I don't like a lot of games like this, so this is the one game. They could burn me here, but I am going to take the team. I'm going to bet against, I should say, the team who couldn't even beat the Jets at home. They lost to the Jets at home, who didn't really play a particularly good game.
Awful
They
game.
could not block the Jets. They made the Jets look like the 85 Bears on the line. And Zach Wilson didn't play a particularly good game. And the Jets missed 2 field goals. And the Jets still won by 7. So I'm going to take Carson Wentz and a good Colts team whose only loss in the last 6 weeks is to Tampa in a shootout. A good game, by the way. They hung with them. They played well. They just lost a shootout to a great team, a really good team. I'm going to take the Colts and only lay 9. I feel like you could lay 29. So I'm going to lay 9. And they're my lock.
Nice. Dallas minus 4.5, Pittsburgh plus 4, Colts minus 9 is the lock, and Buffalo minus 3. Man, those look like some good games. I think you're
really feel like this is a perfect record coming, folks, this week. I feel 4-0 coming.
You know what? I don't know. I do feel nervous about one game, but I'll keep that to myself. But you heard it here first. With any luck, Phil will be 30-18-1 after this weekend. Locks 10-4. You're making some money if you're betting with this guy.
That sounds nice.
If you could be 30-18-1 if you go 4-0.
I think if that happens, I think I actually automatically get promoted from this podcast to a betting site podcast. Like, I think I just telepathically end up at one of those MGM bet line sites.
You may have to with how you're doing,
I just got to get a smoker's cough and I'll get right in there with those. Hey, I got Buffalo. What's up?
You know what? I heard, you know what you could do, which would be great. Why don't we bring in Ed Ogeron? I mean, he doesn't have a job. He can do that. Yeah. Here's my picks for the weeks, everybody. Yeah. All right. Let's get into mad November. All right. It's odd to me, it's, yesterday was November 29th, and it's like these huge contracts were signed all over the place in Major League Baseball. And I don't really understand why November 29th happened to be the day that everybody had to sign, but let's talk about some of these signings, because, good and bad. I mean, it's it's interesting. It's definitely interesting to say. Let's start with some pitchers. Kevin Gausman signed with the Jays, 5 years, $110 million off of his one good year that he's had. And I know that because I'm an Orioles fan. Robbie Ray, the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner, who took a 1-year deal with the Blue Jays just to show that he could play, ends up winning the Cy Young, signs with the Mariners for some reason. And he gets 5 years and $115 million also. Then we've got your man signing with the Mets, Max Scherzer. 3 years, $140 million.
130.
Like 130. When I say 140, I meant 130. I'm sorry. I don't know why I wrote down 140. I know it's 43 million a year. I mean, that's pretty serious. So, talk to me about those 3 signings, and then tell me, as a Mets fan, how excited you are with arguably 2 of the best pitchers in baseball in your lineup.
Yeah. So the money's being, and I don't particularly, like, everybody keeps saying the lockout is coming, like December 2nd, they'll be locked out, right? We've been talking about that a year ago. Like, this lockout is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Why, though, the urgency to sign? I don't know the particulars, because if there's a lockout, my understanding is the union has a pool of money where they keep paying the players for a period of time so they could battle the lockout and obviously not have the players not getting paychecks. So, like, they actually get fronted the money from the union for a period of time. So the urgency of signing tells me there's been big money being given out. So it's not like the owners are getting good deals on people. They're paying premium dollar to get anybody.
Oh, yeah, lots of money.
So I don't know how to read into it, because I'd like to think the players want the guarantees of the signings before the lockout, because the lockout could drag for months, and they just want to know where they're going to be living, and they want to have stability to know, like, hey, if remember with the COVID lockout, when they were fighting over that, they basically made an agreement in like 4 days, these guys had a report. So any free agents had to, like, scramble to find teams and, like, figure out where they're living. I mean, they're human beings. Maybe a certain percentage of people just wanted to be able to put their family in the place they're going to be living, settle in. Other than that, though, I mean, when you see these flurry of signings, it makes you wonder, why are they going to a lockout? Like, the money is there. You know what I mean? Like,
they're
these
paying
owners
these guys.
I mean, and it's not the Yankees only. The Yankees haven't done anything. It's not the Dodgers. It was the Texas Rangers. It was the Mariners. It was the Mets. I know the Mets
Detroit,
are now
the Rays.
The Mets are a very big market team with Cohen, but there's some new blood in there. It's not just the same old. It's not the Red Sox, Dodgers, or Yankees. None of the 3 have done anything huge.
It's true.
About those specific signings, I mean, I think pitchers, everybody has to reconcile with the idea that a solid to good major league pitcher is going to make 20 to 25 million a year. Period. Stop. Syndergaard hasn't pitched in 2 years. He got 21 million he'll be pitching for the first time in basically 2 years. That's what the money is. It's a matter of how many years you get, but 20 to 25 million is the negotiating range to get in the conversation for a big name pitcher. And not even a big name. Gausman's had a couple of good years in his career. Robbie Ray's had a couple good years in his career. So that just tells me that if you want Scherzer, I do understand why it's 40 million. Because if you want Gausman, who's got a lot of question marks, at 20 or 25, it's like the argument of, like, do you want if you want the power forward who's had 2 all-star years, who's 29 years old, or do you want LeBron and you pay him double what that guy makes? Is LeBron worth 50? No, but for 50, you're getting 25, 10, and 8.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's what the Mets figured with Scherzer. Like, if we're going to give Gausman 25, we'd rather give Scherzer 43 because we know he'll be an ace.
Well, I can look at Scherzer this way, and I was looking over his stats. I mean, you're talking about a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, 8-time All-Star. This guy has been consistently great for a long, long time. And even last year, he was awesome. When he went to the Dodgers, he was literally unhittable. I think his ERA, he was like 9-0 with an ERA under 1. I mean, this guy is he's still in the prime of his career. He's 37 years old right now. He may even be 38 by the time next year starts. But not only do you get arguably, the greatest pitcher of our time right now. He might be the greatest pitcher that's playing right now and still playing at a high level. But you're getting a guy that doesn't miss starts either. This is a guy that's gonna give you 30 to 33 starts no matter what. Every year he's got 30 to 33 starts. It's such an anomaly when he actually misses season. So you're not paying for a guy like DeGrom that keeps getting injured. Unfortunately, the guy is so dominant, but the guy can't stay on the field. You're getting a guy that's dominant and will stay on the field. So
yeah, he'll be 38. He'll be 38 at the end of July. So
okay, so
more than
partway
halfway
through the
through
season.
next season.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a good signing. It's a good signing. And I didn't even mention the Corey Kluber signing. I mean, he signed for $8 million.
The interesting signing to me is, or the interesting position was, there was all these shortstop free agents.
Yeah.
And like Lindor got the mega deal with the Mets last year, but Corey Seager got almost the same deal this year with a very crowded field of shortstops.
Yeah.
But then the reverse of Corey Seager is Baez got way less than them, like way, way less.
Yeah, it's true.
And Trevor Story, they're saying they have to sign like a 1-year deal.
Really?
And
Well,
Correa, they're saying may break the bank at 300+ million himself, but I don't know which team's going to give it to him.
I don't understand. I don't understand that. I don't think Correa is that good. I mean, Corey Seager, he signed, it was 10 years, 325 million. And then, Texas is like, yeah, we didn't really spend enough money. Let's also sign Marcus Semien for 7 years, 175 million. So they just gave two guys $500 million.
They've been rebuilding for a while, Texas. They moved into that stunning new stadium, right? They moved into that new stadium.
Yeah.
They got to be flush with cash. They need to put a winning product on the field.
Have to be.
And listen, I'm a little bit surprised with all this money being given out by certain clubs that aren't always your big spenders. I'm a little bit surprised why they're headed to a lockout. Like, it feels like.
No, you're right. You're right. But you even mentioned Javi Baez, who played for the Mets last year, I believe. I mean, he signed with Detroit, 6 years, 140 million. I mean, Detroit doesn't give contracts like that. Right. So where's that money coming from? Yeah,
teams are spreading out. Like, I mean, again, yes, when Tampa hasn't spent and never will. The Pirates never spend. There's teams that don't spend at all, but you're seeing some new names in here. So it's definitely spreading the wealth a little bit, which is good for baseball. It would be good for baseball. I'd like the Orioles to spend. I'd like other teams to spend some money.
The Orioles. Well, don't get me started on the Orioles. I thought Tampa Bay did do a pretty cool thing with Wander Franco, 20 years old. They signed him to 11 years, 182 million. And we talked about this. As long as he stays healthy, with salaries continuously going up, I mean, you've gotten this guy for 11 years on a huge discount. He got what he wanted, which is financial security for a long time. And the team got what they wanted, which they don't have to pay this guy as much money, because let's be honest, if he really is as good as we think he is, 6 years from now, he would be making probably $40 to $50 million a year.
Exactly.
They got him for what, less than 15.
It's going to turn out to be a win. It's a win-win now, but the likelihood of who wins even more is probably Tampa, because if they played out their 5 years, he'd be gone.
Yeah, that's right.
You're and now they get him for 10 plus, and they can't afford guys like that.
That's right.
It's a brilliant move for a small market team that can't sign those type of players when they hit free agency.
Yep. And that leads me to something that you had touched on. That's the baseball lockout, and that's scheduled to happen, I guess, tomorrow at midnight, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that.
And it seems to me when there's a lockout, it's the owners locking out the players, and it's all about, just kind of shifting back and forth, trying to get that leverage. That's what it's all about. And from a player's perspective, there are three issues of this. One is the shrinking share of league revenue. The average salary actually went down last year, so they want more money. Number two is the service time manipulation, which I have a huge problem with. And I agree with that. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be, and we can talk about that in a second. That's something that needs to definitely be touched on. And number three is tanking. I think these guys are concerned that there's still too many teams that are just putting a crazy piece of crap product like the Orioles on the field, and so, the money issue, that always is going to work itself out, I think, because there's so much money, but the service time and I have a real big problem with the service time. For one, I think these teams get the control of their player for way too long. What is it, like 6-7 years, something like that? They have control over these players, and if they don't bring them up, they don't get a year's worth of service time if they don't.
They can manipulate the service time.
Yeah, what is it? If you come up like sometime in May, then it doesn't count as a 1 year.
There's not even a date, though. It's a moving date every year.
Crappy.
It's based on the percentages of rookies that are up and when they started. It's complicated, yeah.
But it to me it's stupid. So if I'm a player, I mean, these are big issues. Maybe not the salary average so much, because these guys are making a lot of money, but the service time and the tanking. I mean, don't you think those are some big issues for these players to be concerned with?
The tanking is a major problem.
It's huge.
The NBA's had it as an issue for a very long time, and they finally came up with some creative ways. Like, people ripped it, but you know what? The fact that they allow the 10 teams to make the playoffs and the bottom 4 have to basically play to get into the playoffs or whatever they do.
Yep.
I mean, the idea behind it, the mechanics of it, I understand. Like, they're trying to drive more competitive play, and not when you fall out of the top 8, you just start tanking. And now with the percentage where you have the equal percentage for the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the NBA to get the number 1 pick, like, I like that. You want to get rid of tanking in baseball, or this idea that the Orioles and Pirates and certain teams stay terrible and they do nothing about it. I would say reverse the way the draft order is. You have the teams that make the playoffs, they pick the bottom 10 draft picks, but the teams that miss the playoffs, the team that just misses the playoff gets the first pick in the draft. The team that just misses the playoffs gets rewarded for just missing the playoffs.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting.
So you go, you put the 10 teams in the playoffs, they pick 21 through 30, but then number 1 team is really the 20th,
the next best team. Yeah.
The next best team who just missed the playoff gets the number 1 pick. Now you have a sense of urgency to finish out the season strong, even if you're a few games out, or even the last weekend, if you're out of the playoffs, you're playing for maybe the first pick in the draft. You're playing for. I think that would be phenomenal. And these teams that want to stay dregs of the league at the bottom, they don't get rewarded. Now the Pirates and Orioles, for their terribleness, become the 18th and 19th pick in the draft.
Yeah. Dude, I love that.
Well, and it's the quickest way to move the middle tiers back to the top.
Yeah.
If
you're right.
Just missed the playoffs, you get rewarded with the best potential college kid or the best potential high school kid.
Dude, why have I never heard that before? That's fantastic.
I just honestly just came up with it like a day ago when I was thinking about it. And
dude, I love that.
I've never heard anybody say that.
That is really, really great, because that forces teams to try.
I'm kind of stealing the NBA model, but they don't do it that way. They don't do the next team who misses, but I just kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
Like, reward these teams to play out the full string of games.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think
the Pirates might actually just disband if I was.
They might just fold. Well, the Orioles, I mean, hey, great. They've got the top minor league system. Who the hell cares if you can't develop your players? They brought up so many rookies last year that all stunk. Yet you've got the best minor league system. And now, I was talking to my mom yesterday. We were talking about how there's rumors that they're going to trade a couple of their best players. And I'm like, okay, well, these guys are both under control for years, at least 4 or 5 more years, making the league minimum, which is $500K. Why would you trade these guys when they're not making any money for prospects that may or may not turn out? I mean, why? You've got a couple players that are good, not making any money. Why wouldn't you? I mean, stop freaking rebuilding and add some more good players to what you have. I don't understand the mindset.
People that have been down on the rebuilding have highlighted teams like the Pirates and Orioles and said the problem with rebuilding is some teams are in a perpetual rebuild.
Yeah.
And they never stop rebuilding because they don't think the team's good enough to start adding the pieces to complement the rebuild.
That's right.
And that's what those two teams have done. They've never actually said, okay, we have to do 2 things at once. We have to put a more winning product on the field, but don't trade your draft picks.
That's
Like
right.
you could do both.
That's right.
But you do need to spend certain amounts of free agency money to do that.
That's right. You're right. You're right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that changes. A couple things I wanted to hit up really quickly before we go. College basketball season is off to a fun start. Friday night I'm watching the game. It was a game of the two top freshmen, Duke and Gonzaga, and Duke actually beat them, and they thought they beat them pretty easily. And the two guys, it's Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, the 7-footer that weighs 130 pounds, awkward looking. You got to look this. He's just awkward looking, and he gets pushed around. I mean, it's nice that he's so tall that when somebody goes up for a shot, he can potentially block it. But dude, you get a guy that's much stronger than him in the NBA, and this guy is toast. I mean, he's getting his butt kicked. And then you've got the other guy, Paolo. I don't even know what his last name is, Banderas or something. 6'10" power forward freshman out of Duke, and this guy is just a friggin' machine. I think he had 20 points at halftime, and fun to watch. And they're saying that these two guys are going to end up going 1 and 2. This guy is incredible. So if you get a chance to watch Duke play, this guy of theirs is incredible. And even if you get a chance to watch Gonzaga play, just to look at Chet Holmgren and wonder when they're going to put some weight on this guy. I mean, he weighs less than I do, and he's over a foot taller, and I think that's a little bit odd. Another couple things that I noticed was Dayton beat number 4 Kansas last week. I mean, they're an unranked team. Another unranked team, Iowa State, beat their second straight ranked opponent. They beat number 9 Memphis by 19 points. I mean, that is a beatdown. And then you've got Iona that beat by 4 points, beat number 10 Alabama. Iona, famous for their coach Rick Pitino. Who knows, man? Maybe this guy is making a comeback. It seems like he wins everywhere he goes.
He's a great coach, Pitino.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. But it's an exciting season. And again, the rankings just bother me because now I don't know what the new rankings are, but Villanova's got 2 losses and they're probably going to be back at the top 5. And I don't understand that because my team is 6-0 and they're not in the top 25. But anyway, so I don't know what's going to go on with college basketball, but if that's any indication of what the season is going to look like this year, I think that we are in for a really, really fun ride and a tremendous March Madness where you don't know what's going to happen. So I just wanted
to pull for Gonzaga.
Yeah, I know you will. And I won't because I every time I see Chet Holmgren, I just kind of laugh, which is horrible to say. It's horrible to say I know, and I don't mean to do that. But even my girls were watching the game and they're like, what's wrong with that guy? He just kind of like he's got like no muscle whatsoever. He looks like Manu. He's like a white Manu Bowl. I mean, it's just odd looking. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And then I wanted to touch on one thing about NBA, and then we actually had a question from one of our listeners, and I'm gonna end with and it's a question directed to you.
Okay.
Do you know who Enes Kanter is?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the big
basketball
Turkish
player.
basketball player.
Yeah.
Good player. Well, he's been critical of the Turkish president now for a few years, and he was actually accused of belonging to a terrorist group. He's actually wanted in Turkey. They've revoked his passport, and so he's decided to become an American citizen. But before he becomes an American citizen, he decided to change his name. He's no longer Enes Kanter. He's Enes Kanter Freedom now.
Is he?
Yeah, his new last name is Freedom. Yes. Because you got to make that change before you become an American citizen.
I like it.
So I like that. I think you should be Phil Calise Independence.
Okay.
But when you become an American citizen.
I'm not there yet.
keep working hard, man.
I'm not sure I want to be a citizen of this country. I'm debating it.
Yeah, well, keep giving it some thought. All right, the question of the week, it comes from one of our listeners actually.
Oh, I like this segment. Can we do a question of the week every week? This is great. Make sure you send your questions in.
Yes. It's by a guy named Brian. I have no idea who this is. Brian in California. And basically he writes, Phil, I don't understand what you have against the NBA. Why do you refuse to talk about the NBA?
Well, have I ever said I refuse to talk about the NBA?
The man's got a point. We don't really talk about the NBA. Do you have a problem with the NBA, Phil? Be honest with me.
No, I don't
Are
have
there
no.
ties to China bothering you? Is that what it is?
No, I actually don't have a problem with talking about the NBA. I would answer it this way as I ponder for a second. I've I've had a problem with the NBA in only that it's not at the top of my mind during football season. Like the NBA to me begins Christmas.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm 3, 4 weeks away from starting to even like getting in tune to the NBA. I just think it's played too early in my mind,
yeah.
and it starts in like the meat of the NFL and college football season.
Yep.
And so it loses. It's so down the road in terms of importance to me then. But I
Yep.
have no problem peppering in. I'm usually the one defending LeBron against you when you're such a hater.
Well, let me
So I have no problem with the NBA. I mean, it's fine.
well,
It's
let me let
fine.
me let me tell you something, and I'll direct this answer to Brian. I know that he asked you specifically, but I'm going to tell you, Brian, I do not like the NBA anymore, and I think the biggest reason is because they're thinking about changing it to the LBA, and I have a problem with the LeBron Basketball Association. I have a problem with a player controlling what the NBA does, what the NBA says. I have a real problem with that. I had a real problem last week when he had two fans thrown out for heckling him. God forbid you say something mean about him. And then last night, Tristan Thompson actually got a fan ejected for heckling him. I mean,
Mm.
what is going on here? Now
The
fan. I mean,
COVID year with no fans in the stadium made them forget what it's like to get
I
booed and stuff.
I don't get it. I mean, isn't heckling from fans or from the opposite fans, isn't that part of the game? Isn't that part of the fun when you listen to people yelling at people? I mean, they do that. It reminds me of Happy Gilmore when he brought
Amen.
in the heckler, and the
Uh,
guy's like, "You jackass."
I'm
You
going
know, the
on StubHub shortly to buy LSU home opener tickets next year so I can go heckle Brian Kelly. So
Like, seriously, I mean, isn't that part of the game? Like when was the last time you were at a baseball game and they announced somebody and somebody behind you isn't screaming, "Oh, you suck, you're a bum." I mean, it's part of the game. And now these prissy little NBA players, now it's, "Oh, you can't say anything bad about me." Now you can't even say anything to me about the game. Oh no, you can't even boo me. What if I boo LeBron? Is he going to get me thrown out of the game now? I mean,
amen.
it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I see, as you can see, Brian in California, I am much more of the NBA fan than my co-host. Uh, I actually don't have any problem with the NBA overall. Like I said, for me, I'll kind of talk about it more post like Christmas. I have no problem talking about it. I'll watch some NBA games on Christmas usually. And then I feel like that's when the season begins. But then I also, in fairness, will then hit a lull in like January, February, where it's just like I'm like, wake me up when it's like April and it gets closer.
Yeah.
Because again, what makes the NBA neat also is a detractor to me. Everyone makes the playoffs. So it's like
Yeah.
it's hard to be excited about NBA regular season for me. That's
Mm.
just me. As I've gotten older, I just don't find it as exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And Brian, I hope we answered your question. And guys, we welcome questions, and hopefully I can start asking you more and more questions. And now that I've put it out there, hopefully we'll start getting a few more, because there's got to be one hounding us about hockey, which I don't think either of us even know what that sport is. Or maybe a little auto racing. We haven't talked about that, or women's soccer. I think that's a
Little
great topic.
LPGA.
I think pickleball is getting pretty popular nowadays, and
Cornhole's the cornhole.
cornhole's great. What's the sport where they've got like the little net in the middle and four people are just like hitting the ball against this little net that's on the floor? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you see it at the beach a lot. I forget what it's called.
You see, yeah, they have it like on like there's college teams that do it. It's the strangest thing. I can't remember what it's called, but maybe we'll have to talk about that and figure out. I couldn't figure out exactly how to play it, so maybe we'll figure it out. But anyway, great episode as always, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the college football. This could be set up for just a legendary ending, and we're gonna have so much fun talking about the college football playoff next week.
I'm rooting for a coachless Notre Dame in the playoff, baby.
You want to see Cincinnati and Notre Dame play. That's what you
I
want
want
to
to see
see.
if I can virtually be one of the assistant coaches in the game when there's pure chaos going on.
I can
I think it'd be
assure
fun.
you that I can make that happen.
Let's go. I'm excited.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your loyalty. Be sure to ask us some questions. You got anything you want to hear, you want to know about, just let us know. But tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Let's keep growing this thing and the Phil and the Mike army out there. Let's have a good time. Holiday season, man. Everybody's in a good mood. Let's keep having fun. I know I have fun doing the podcast every week. And Phil, I mean, I can see by your face that we can't really see your mouth because your beard is covering it, but it's all good stuff. So hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.